Online audience. Thank you for joining us. Our next session is on going to be for the next 45 minutes. Just a reminder that questions are taken via the forum's dedicated platform or the live stream on IHRB's LinkedIn and YouTube channel. So please post any questions there. So I'd like to invite the next panel for the session on tools, pilots, and accountability in responsible recruitment. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, it's so weird seeing myself on that screen. Really great to be here. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully everyone can find a seat so that we can get started. We have three great speakers with me here today, and we have about 45 minutes. So yeah, let's get started. Welcome to this session, which we'll be looking at a question that is very close to my heart, that is becoming increasingly central in the responsible recruitment space, of course. So how do we move from commitments, which I think we've seen a lot of over the last couple of years, to implementation? And, you know, across businesses, across supply chains, there is now much wider recognition of the importance of responsible recruitment. I think it's maybe my third forum joining here over the last sort of 7, 8 years in this space. And I think we've definitely come quite far. But there is still, as many of us in the room know, there is still a lot going from adopting the right principles to actual implementation. And the test is really whether those principles are being translated into day-to-day practices in ways that are credible, practical, and responsive to actual worker risks. I think that's something that we're definitely seeing here in Malaysia, where I'm based since 2.5 years. We see that in the everyday of the struggles and challenges that workers are facing here when it comes to recruitment issues and employment issues as well. So today we're fortunate enough to have 3 organizations that approach this challenge from different but complementary angles. So we have Stronger Together with Jantine, who focuses on practical capacity building, guidance, benchmarking, supplier engagement through tools such as a Stronger Together 360 platform. We have RBA and Chu, who through its responsible recruitment and diligence work brings experience on systems, supplier implementation, recruitment fee due diligence, broader market alignments. And then finally, Verité and Hubert brings a worker-centered and risk-focused lens, including tools, guidance on ethical recruitment, forced labor risk, grievance mechanisms, and remediation. So what I was hoping that we can unpack in this discussion are really 3 key things. So first, what is actually helping companies make progress in practice, where implementation still breaks down, and what is needed if current approaches are to deliver not just better systems on paper, but better outcomes for workers and at scale, of course. We will begin the session with short opening remarks from each speaker. So we'll give them about 5 to 7 minutes each and then move into a discussion. And I think we'll start with Jantine from Stronger Together. So Jantine, without losing more time, the floor is yours.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Matthias, and thank you for inviting me here. I'll be excited to share with you. I think my clicker might not be working. Oh, yeah. Great. There we are. Today, I want to talk to you about one of the tools that our organization has developed and which was introduced in the beginning of this year. But it wasn't just launched this year. It was actually something that was developed a long time ago. Development started in 2017 already. And what this new tool is, the 360, is a merger of two older tools, bringing that together in one tool that is a lot more comprehensive and is being used by many businesses already, about 4,000 at the moment. Our organization looks at systemic change and really contributes to that by working with businesses in a whole variety of ways. But we work very operationally with them as well in terms of implementation, and this tool is an example of that. It's a tool that helps businesses prevent labor exploitation and embed responsible recruitment and fair work, and that's both across operations and supply chains. Now, the tool is globally applicable and sector neutral and aligned to international standards. It is its functionality is very much self-assessment. So it provides a range of questions for businesses to identify where they are at in their journey when it comes to implementing responsible recruitment and fair work. It gives them the opportunity to benchmark themselves against peers in an anonymous way. It's not just the what. It's not just asking them in a compliance-based way, this is what you need to have in place. It also provides them with a lot of guidance, expert guidance throughout. So it gives them the how. And we feel that is something that is always very important when we introduce tools. It gives the functionality for those who wish to use that functionality to not only use the tool for themselves to figure out where they are at in their journey, but there is an option as well to have a subscription to connect with business partners. So that means that, for example, a food business can connect to their labor providers and mutually they can share the reports on how they are doing, or equally they can do that upwards to the clients that they provide to. Now, they also have the opportunity then to pull off an action plan at the end of it and prioritize the actions that they want to take on the back of the results of the self-assessment. And as I say, report back then to clients and colleagues as they please. Maybe one thing to add here, the reason, and this is actually on the back of what Adrian said this morning in his opening speech, where he referred to, there are so many tools out there. Some of them work and some of them don't. And he said it a bit harsher, but I thought that is a very true point. And today, the tool I'm talking about, I feel, is one that is working, and I'll come on to that in a moment. But it came off the back, the reason that it came about was that we introduced something that wasn't working. And I think it's great to talk about all the good things that we have in place, but it's also important at forums like this to talk about the things that don't work. And so, as a bit of context, we introduced back in 2018 Clearview, which is like Iris, a labor provider certification scheme, very robust and very good. So there's nothing wrong with the methodology as such, and it is still being used. But what we found during the process, the years of developing that, was that the market wasn't ready for it. And that although there was such a robust methodology, nobody was ready to use it because capacity building was needed in the very first place. And that's why we introduced a self-assessment, a capacity building tool, which has now evolved into the 360. And as I say, Clearview is still there. It is being used in the States, but at that time, that was something that failed to be taken up. Right. How is the 360 being used? Very briefly here, it is used for effective human rights due diligence. As I said, it goes across responsible recruitment, but also fair work. It helps businesses also very much with the recruitment chain due diligence. So as I said, it is both for the top of the supply chain, their suppliers, and then linking up with their recruiters and labor providers, and can also involve umbrella companies. And it enables cross-function collaboration, something that we've spoken about over the last 2 days. So important that we approach this not only in sustainability teams, but that we bring it across the organization into purchasing practices teams, for example, as well. Why? Well, I don't have to tell you the why of embedding responsible recruitment, but just to touch here on what this does. It's really to provide that opportunity of a stepping stone for businesses to show their commitment and to show their progress to those that they work with. It's not a tool that they do one time and that's it. It's something that they can do again and again. It will give them a progress score and give them, the detail behind that. And that will be asked for example, some of the retailers that we work with will ask their strategic suppliers to provide a report of that moment in time. And after 6 months, they will ask for the next report. Not because they think everything is perfect by the next meeting, but so somebody can show, a supplier can show what progress they have made. Right, well, I'll leave this up so you can all read it yourself, but I just wanted to give a few examples of how the tool is being used and by whom it's being used. It's a variety of actors, as I said. So, for example, a large part of the UK supermarkets is using the tool. And one of those I've pulled out. They've just publicized their modern slavery statement for this year yesterday. And in there is this quote, which reflects that they use the 360 tool, previously RRT, to assess and improve their own recruitment processes. So they really specifically use that for themselves as a big supermarket. They're now looking to roll that out to their suppliers as well. Then another example, a labor provider, which has offices both in the UK, but also has offices and recruits from Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, and Bulgaria. They use it to create consistency across their team. So they use the tool to build capacity across their in-country teams. And then finally, another level in the supply chain, a food manufacturer uses it by making those connections. They don't only use it for their own operations, they very much use it for their recruitment chain and ask all their labor providers to complete this, do the self-assessment and have built that into their audit systems as well. So the companies will be asked to complete it, that will be given to the auditors and they then check of that, verify if that information is indeed correct. So different ways of usage across the board. That's where I'll leave it.
Thank you so much, Jantine. That's really interesting to hear about the 360 tool. I think that's something that we'll come back to as well and ask a few questions a little bit later. But yeah, we will move on next to Shu from RBA, who will discuss their initiatives and their platforms from RBA.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shu. Thanks for the introduction. And it's so great. Actually, we have a lot of initiative here. And let me just briefly walk you through what is RBA's Responsible Recruitment Program. And actually, many of you might be familiar because we've been starting the program since 2017. I won't go to detail of what we've done previously, but I do want to share with you actually over the past years, these programs actually gave us some lesson learned. Hence, actually, when we launched a new program we call RRP 2.0 last year in November, we actually adjust and make changes according to these lessons learned. But obviously, I think why we all are sitting here is the ethical recruitment market is not there yet. That's why all of us here are using tools, initiative to see how to create the market. So I think few lessons learned that I do want to share with you from our program previously are there is a gap still, like how to move the supplier employer toward the ethical recruitment. A lot of the big clients, they are buy-in, but a lot of the employer on the ground is not there yet. So a lot of the awareness raising and capacity building program are still needed on the ground to the language, to the culture, to the local recruitment system that they understand. I think this is the first one we definitely learn. There need to be economic incentive for recruitment agency. I think a lot of the recruitment agency are sitting here that I see people are nodding the head. How to create really incentive, a business case for recruitment agencies. I think the third one, the hybrid module, I think that is still something we know is one of the biggest challenge we see. In RBA's case, we see a lot of recruitment agency, they will be employers pays for RBA members, but then for those industry that are not asking for employers pay, they still charge. And this still remain happening in most of the country. The next one is, I would say, overlapping system of certification, which I think is good. We have IRIS, SAI here, we have Stronger Together, we have the ethical marketplace here, because I think a lot of the recruitment agency are confusing, like, which one should I go for? Yeah, so I think I will mention what is our key actually elements is to really align it and continuously speaking with all the stakeholder who is working on the same initiative. I think the very important next two P's is there is a strong need on engaging with both sending country and destination country. So I would say RBA's work now really has a very strong focus on working closely with our public policy team to engage with government in sending country. Yeah. And the last one, I think everyone will be also familiar is a continuous stakeholder engagement and collaboration, which I think among them worker-centric is a very important piece. Because if we are talking about responsible recruitment, whether it's working, ultimately is we want to see a worker have a journey from sending country to destination country that is safe, fair, without exploitation. So I think these are just a few lessons learned I would like to share with everyone that how we are shaping our program now. As you can see from the slides, there are a few key elements that is echoing actually from our lesson learned. So I think we are focusing really on addressing forced labor for the recruitment program. We want to drive more demands from our members and their suppliers by deploying different type of tools that we want to ensure the supplier are able to conduct due diligence on their own from sending country to destination country. So this is something we are continuously promoting. And as I mentioned, the continuous stakeholder collaboration really with, IHRB, IOM, ILO, CGF, Stronger Together, SAI are something we continuously are building along the journey. And we hope really we can all find a pathway that we can share with the recruitment agency and supplier that there's nothing different. We are all doing the same thing, right? And I think echoing actually what CGF was mentioning yesterday, certification should not be the end goal. It's a pathway. So we do want to showcase that all the recruitment agency or supplier who is on their journey, they need to be recognized and have the visibility. So I think this is also another important element that we are trying to promote. Now, just briefly want to show you there are some elements, and I think you can hear from me, there are really some repeating keywords in what I've been talking about. So some of the key elements that we see that you just heard from me, engaging with government in sending country and receiving country. By that, actually, in the next slides, I will be also showing you, we try to organize workshop in sending country and destination country. So actually last month, I believe April, actually, we were here in Kuala Lumpur to hold workshop, both for our members, our suppliers, as well as recruitment agency. And we do have a session that we really break people up in different groups because we understand people probably will have fear to speak up. What are the challenge they are facing? What are the resources they need? So we are still in the process really while we are walking our program, but we are adjusting really all these feedback we receive from different stakeholders. I think the second half of this year, we are hoping to engage more government as well as recruitment agency from sending country as well. So this is definitely something we are working important for our current RRP 2.0 program. I think the second piece is nomination process, which by that I mean RBA now is focusing more on supporting our member really to nominate the recruitment agency. And as you know, as an industry alliance, I think our strength is how we can have a better leverage. So if one company are nominating the recruitment agency, it's hard. But when we have more company are sharing the same recruitment agency, then the leverage is bigger. So in this scenario, RBA is playing a crucial role of mapping out and facilitate really among the members on nominate recruitment agency to join recruitment agency capacity building program or the certification program. I think the third piece is equivalency framework. So in the first phase, actually, we do work a lot with IOM IRIS. So we do have an equivalency there. And then at the moment, we are working very closely with on-the-level certification program. So that whenever a recruitment agency come to us, then we know like you don't need to have a duplication effort. So we are also hoping even with Stronger Together and with CGF, we are not the same industry, but there could be an equivalence that in this case, you know, the hybrid module will be something we are able to address because when there is equivalency, then this recruitment agency, when they are serving for different industry, they know the center is equivalence over there. This is going to take time, but we believe like this is really a crucial piece. The other important element you hear from me is how do we drive the market demand? I think I try to list it out something, few elements over here, and this is something we are also promoting in our program at the moment. As I mentioned, organizing the workshop both in sending country and destination country is very crucial because a lot of the time we have more engagement with member, but not the employer, supplier. So it is very important to communicate to them what is ethical recruitment, what are the tools out there, even you know, not the recruitment program, but what are the resource that you can utilize? Is it training? Is it SAQ? Is it risk assessment? When we talk about due diligence, are there toolkits we can support you? So at the moment, we are also trying to create a pathway for members, for suppliers, for recruitment agency. If you want to start on your recruitment journey, what's the pathway could look like so that it actually provides you a guidance, how to start from zero, and then how to you begin your journey. I think there's an important piece that both Jantine and CGF was mentioning is how do you really build in with your procurement team? How do you build in recruitment agency with your procurement process? I think that is something we are all trying very hard. I think we are not there yet. So we are also actually trying to, for the RBA member, we are building a responsible purchasing guideline checklist for them to embed it, procurement in their contract from the beginning process. Yeah, I think another critical issue that we heard is actually addressing the financial module, financial issue. I think at the moment we are actually starting to create a assessment funds by both RBA and our members on at least support the recruitment agency or supplier to begin their journey. So there are really multiple different elements now we are talking that we are really making efforts to overcome these challenges that I raised from the previous RRP 1.0. We are not there yet, but is still like a journey to keep moving on. I think I'll just want to spend actually the last time actually to briefly show you. I don't know whether it's clear, but I think among the workshop we had actually in April, both in Kuala Lumpur and in Taiwan, there are lots of interesting findings that we gather from both the suppliers, the members, and recruitment agency. And I think this will be very interesting because the perspectives are very different. People all need different type of support. As you can see from the members that they really need to build this. They want the supplier to build this in their procurement contract because this can be the starting point. And then there need a better communication because we also realize, again, what I mentioned at the beginning, there's a gap on the member are so into ethical recruitment program, but not the employer. Why is it? So the communication, how do you really create business case for supplier? How do you create incentive between a buyer and your employer? I think that is something we also need to look at it. I think address the cost challenge. That is something you can see not only raised by the member, but it's raised by the suppliers and recruitment agency. So how can we really create a financial module that is sustaining? I think it's something we are also looking and together actually from other organizations as well. And looking from the supplier side, I think you see all kind of issue. I mean, one of the thing is, okay, as a destination country, I am willing to enroll in the ethical recruitment program, but how do I deal with sending country? Like there are so many sending country agency I'm working with, right? So how do I work with them? So I think we do realize the supplier raise like sending country recruitment agency is one of the challenge they are facing. How do we get them buy-in? And then I think the supplier also have clear expectation that there need to be some clear guidance from the local governments, like guidance, really actionable, like guidance for them to operate. Because in a lot of the case, when we look at the employer, they are not big company. They are just SME, small, medium enterprise that they need guidance on really step-by-step hand-holding. Again, and I think the tools and package support them on going on the journey. Hence, that's why we are developing, because we do realize as a supplier, they don't know these are the tools they can use to deploy the program. Lastly, I think I'll just briefly cover the recruitment agency. I know a lot of you are here. A lot of you raise different type of challenge that you do need the support from both employer and the buyer. You are hoping to have more workshop to engage, with your peers, and also on the cost challenge. This is just like interesting, I think, finding that we gather and continuously using it to shape our program that we are working on. So we are trying to use really different type of outreach and communication program. As you can see, we have a responsible recruitment workshop. We have a responsible recruitment working group within RBA with like-minded members. We have a best practice sharing webinars from members will tell us, they have good approach in direct hiring, how they use grievance from employment first phase, all kind of activity. I'll pause here and I'll hand it back to Martin.
Thank you so much, Shu. Very comprehensive and really interesting to hear about your different initiatives and RRP 2.0. I heard a bunch of interesting things there noted down about how do we scale to small and medium enterprises, pathways to certification, and so on. So really, really interesting to hear. I will now pass it to Hubert from Verité, who has long focused on turning labor rights risk into practical due diligence approaches and in the responsible recruitment space. So really looking forward to hearing from Hubert as well.
Thank you very much. My name is Hubert Lang. I'm here with Verité. For anyone not familiar, Verité is a forced labor nonprofit. We work with private sector companies. We work with governments to do capacity building. We do independent research. We're kind of all over the space in various ways. Today, I'm going to share a little information about Verité's recruitment cost calculator. The Recruitment Cost Calculator is a public resource that was launched in 2022 under Walmart Foundation funding. The core of the Recruitment Cost Calculator is actually really simple. We had a lot of drive to adopt an employer pays policy. We had a lot of suppliers interested in adopting an employer pays policy, but no one actually knew how much they were supposed to pay and what they were paying for. And so the core of the RCC is to surface the actual cost of recruitment under an employer pays model in specific corridors and in specific sectors. And so it's a tool that can be helpful for a lot of different stakeholders. The primary use of it is for suppliers to gauge that cost that they're paying in those corridors, or that they should be paying in those corridors. And the idea here is that if suppliers have an actual idea of the amount they should be paying, of the actual costs to recruit these workers, it surfaces, it gives them the ability to vet the workers they've already hired, to look for risks within the workers they've already hired through those agents by comparing the actual cost of recruitment versus what they actually paid, if they paid anything. And if they're underpaying, there's a pretty high risk that the agents may have been making up for that. It also helps them proactively screen contracts with recruitment agents. And so they can have that accurate information about what are they paying for, what should they be paying, what are the market rates on some of these things. It also has use for recruitment agents themselves because it helps them point at the actual cost when agencies are trying to charge the actual cost of ethical recruitment. It gives them something to look at, to point to suppliers and say, this is within the range of what we're charging because this is what it costs. This is what you're paying for these first mile costs, for these other costs that are a little difficult for suppliers to understand and to surface. It's also available for civil society, for workers to understand some of the costs that go into it, and for brands as well. One thing that we've found people using the RCC for is suppliers, not just in their contracting with agents, but in their contracting with buyers. If they're being asked to adopt EPP, they can point at the costs in the RCC and actually work that into their contracting and say, well, this is what it's going to cost us with our workforce needs to actually do responsible recruitment. The RCC has been around for 4 years, and it's going into an expansion phase. This year, we're adding, there's 12 corridors currently in the RCC across 6 countries. This year, the RCC is adding 5 additional corridors. By the end of the year, we'll have 16. One of those is already live on the website. We're expanding into Thailand and Taiwan, and seafood processing plants in both those countries, and then vessels in Taiwan for workers coming from the Philippines and Indonesia, I believe. So 16 total corridors by the end of the year. The 2 resources that we're expanding into that I wanted to share today are the EPP progression matrix and the EPP performance dashboard. So the progression matrix is going to be another public resource made available to suppliers as a management systems tool to benchmark their own progress in adopting employer pays. There's 3 main components of the EPP. There's benchmarking progress, there's providing actionable guidance to improve, and there's information in there about how they can demonstrate compliance with an EPP. So the EPP will be a tool where suppliers can go through and gauge their own commitment to EPP. What are they actually doing? It will create dashboards and KPIs that can kind of show them where they are in their own journey. It's also something that can be continuously updated, so they can come in and update as they improve their practices, as they make changes to their policies in their contracting arrangements. The second piece of that is the actual implementation guidance that will be within there. So this is going to be a very detailed tool across 12 subject areas, I believe, that really kind of gets into the weeds of what does it mean to implement employer pays principle to a very granular level of detail. What is not just you should have it in your contracts, but what do those contracts look like? What do you put in those agreements with recruitment agents? Where can you leverage the RCC data to do that contracting? How should you be doing intake interviews with workers? How do you verify that your implementation is working? It's a very detailed set of guidance that we make available for suppliers to track, gauge, and improve their own progress in implementing EPP. This is based on years of Verité's work. This is the kind of work Verité does with individual suppliers to do this capacity building, this capability building, to implement a strong EPP process and carry it forward. Just trying to formalize it into a tool, make it publicly available for suppliers who've been asked to adopt EPP policy, but don't have the resources they need. Maybe they haven't gone through capacity building. Maybe they don't have the resources to go through capacity building. This is a resource we can make available to them to work on that and develop their own EPP programming. The EPP Performance Dashboard will be another public resource that attempts to track implementation and the progress of EPP over time. The goal here is to bring visibility to the movement of EPP, to the adoption of EPP, and to accountability to it, because over the last several years, with all the work that's been done in this space, our experience, this was cited yesterday, I believe, our experience is that 90% of suppliers still aren't paying the full cost of recruitment. And the accountability here is we track it over time and we see if we're moving the needle on that. Are we actually making progress on this? Or is it stagnating? Is it still facing this difficulty in implementing these improved policies and reducing risk to workers? The Performance Dashboard will let users explore trends across industry level, across sectors, across geographies, and across corridors. And so the purpose of these tools kind of taken together is to, along with the RCC, kind of where can making this information available to suppliers, to brands, to agents, to civil society and workers, to kind of embed data in a clear implementation pathway to support accountability, oversight, and ethical recruitment outcomes that we're all striving towards. This is just one more tool in the toolkit amongst many of the several shared over the last couple of days. And yeah, I'll leave it there so we save a few minutes for questions.
Thank you so much, Hubert. Yeah, we're running short on time. We have about 8 minutes, but I will come back to Jantine now. So we heard about the Stronger Together 360 platform with the self-assessment, the action planning, benchmarking, visibility across business partners. But I wanted to ask you, Jantine, if you could give some more concrete examples of how the Stronger Together 360 online tool is being used by businesses alongside other interventions, training, supplier engagement, corrective action, follow-up, to really move from that initial policy commitment to actual change in practice. And perhaps if you've seen any good sort of practice when it comes to pushing it down supply chains to small and medium enterprises, if you have any good examples.
Definitely, and I'll try to keep it short. I think it's important to realize that the tool is just a tool, and it can be a tool sitting there without it being used. So that can never be the case. One of the ways that we have seen to be most successful is the way that we've applied it in the UK, in the consumer goods industry, where we have a collaborative program which brings together the main UK supermarkets together with their suppliers in the consumer goods industry, the agricultural sector, and those suppliers then bring in their labor providers as well. So in that program, the funders of that program are the top of the supply chain, the supermarkets, and therefore they receive benefits, but also benefits at no cost are provided to their suppliers and their labor providers. That takes away that barrier of financial cost. And I think what we've established by making this tool part of this program and the wider program, in which there is the tool which provides that reporting capability, the self-assessment, the capacity building. We provide a range of training as well on responsible recruitment, of course, recruitment fees, but also fair and equal treatment, for example, all the elements of fair work and responsible recruitment. What we have done and why the uptake has been very high in that sector is that there has been building of trust. And I think that's key because, again, a tool is just a tool and you want people to answer that in an honest way because then only will it make an impact. We want people to be answering that so they are not afraid to share challenges that they might experience because only then can it be discussed and addressed. So I think that's the key. And then the final point is that we, as an organization, provide assessments as well, which are being delivered by independent assessors. And they verify in a participatory way, so not in an audit way, but in a participatory way, by being commissioned by the actual business, the verification if what has been said in the self-assessment questionnaire is actually truthful, is triangulated and evidenced. And that has been very useful. And an example, the key example here is that it has been used by companies that recruit workers for working in the UK in the horticultural sector, but the workers are being recruited from Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and so on. And so the assessment then doesn't only take place in the UK at the headquarters office. That is one part of it, the management systems level. But the assessor will actually go out to the sourcing country as well and do an assessment on the ground there as well. So that's very beneficial.
Thank you so much, Francine. Super interesting to hear about how you're going from both the headquarter level in the UK and the country destination and back all the way to country of origin as well. Really useful to hear. We have about 4 minutes left, so turning to Shu now, and obviously we heard that RBA has developed, and quite frankly, being here in Malaysia, being based here, I often hear that, when we go out and talk to suppliers or even recruiters, they're often like, oh, we're connected to RBA, we're doing certain practices and so on. So that's quite exciting. But obviously, over some time, RBA has developed a range of tools, guidance to support responsible recruitment due diligence, including work on recruitment fees and supplier implementation, of course. But from your perspective, from the learnings of RBA so far, what really distinguishes a credible, responsible recruitment system from one that exists mainly on paper? What do you see as the main building blocks?
Right. I think this is a question actually we've been asked by many people, and I think a lot of initiative as well, because this is how you are not only rely on audit, but this is how you really are able to change your policy and your commitment to a real behavioral change and a system change. So I think this is actually why the current RIP program is shaped, that we are really trying to promote the member, encourage the supplier. That's why we are organizing all these workshops, that when we are looking for ethical recruitment, it's not like doing audit. It's not like engage with the consultant, find out the fee, check the box. It's you need to be capable to conduct due diligence on your own. You need to understand what a worker will face, what type of risk from sending country to destination country. So this has been something we are promoting, that all the employer, the suppliers need to be capable of, conducting this. And besides this, then coming back, whenever you are not only doing audit, but when you are enrolled in the ethical recruitment program on this journey, do you really have a worker-centric grievance, like worker feedback system that can support it? This is something like we've been also trying to engage with the employer, with the recruitment agency, because a lot of the time, actually, we are seeing, I'm just talking about probably the case in Taiwan, is most of the employer, they are using recruitment agency, and then they think all the responsibility is on recruitment agency. Whenever workers submit any grievance, go to find the recruitment agency. It's not me as an employer. So I think there needs a very long-term journey to really hand-holding of how do we really change your concept? How do we really change? Even you have a process, you have a policy, you have a really nice human rights due diligence report on ethical recruitment, but can you really change your company to build up a process that everyone has a awareness of there is a risk there, and how do we identify, how do we remediate, how do we really respond? Again, I think we are not there yet. That's why we are trying a lot of using different tools to promote. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shu. Very interesting hearing about processes and building that over time, that it doesn't change overnight. I think that's very important. We have 30 seconds for a final question for Hubert. Keep it short, please, because otherwise the organizers will not be happy with me. But I wanted to ask about, the Fair Hiring Toolkit, Responsible Sourcing Tool can help better understand risk. But where do you see the biggest disconnect between better risk diagnosis and better outcomes for workers?
Yeah, I mean, this is an ongoing challenge, I think, for everybody. We have plenty of tools for identifying, for tracking, for gathering data, for collection of where are the risks, but putting those into practice, that's the challenge. I think all of the tools that we shared here today are efforts to kind of operationalize those findings and actually remediate and address them. It's kind of the core challenge, and it's unfortunately not something I can answer in 0 seconds remaining. So, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Hubert. And with the alarm clock beaming here, I just want to say thank you to all the panelists here, to Hubert, Shu, Jantine for sharing today. It's been really great. Hopefully the audience has learned something. And yeah, thank you all for listening, both in the room and online. Thank you so much.